Hi, Avi. Thank you for coming to BizTalk. That's my great pleasure with you today. We've been talking for a while, so we are kind of friends.
Yes.
Please, let's introduce yourself, who you are.
Well, my name is Avi Drori. I'm an American that's been living in Israel now for over 30 years. My business is biotech. I'm an entrepreneur in the biotechnology space. For the past 5 years, I've been investing efforts in taking the cannabis space into the pharmaceutical industry and investigating with leading scientists in Israel the potential connection between cannabinoid therapy and treating different forms of skin cancer. And that's what MedC is about. We're a science-driven company that is researching and developing medication, pharmaceutical medication from cannabis to treat different types of skin cancer.
Thank you, Avi. Let's share your pitch deck if you want, so we can start talking a little bit about your venture.
So as I was saying, MedCbiopharma, we're a cannabinoid pharmaceutical company. We're no different than any other pharmaceutical company. We're a science-based company, and everything we do is based on data, not on guessing, not on stories, but an actual pure scientific investigation of different cannabinoids and to establish their pharmaceutical efficacy in treating different oncology, different cancer conditions. Our company is based really on two foundations. One is a very experienced management team that comes from the pharmaceutical industry, but has a very strong affinity to looking at cannabis as a potential for mainline therapeutics and developing novel treatments for real life medical indications. And the second part is data-led products. I mean, you cannot come and just say, oh, CBD is great for everything, and this works for others, and something works for some. At the end of the day, anyone that's taking a drug, especially for cancer, wants to know that it's safe and wants to know that it works. And that's what we are doing. That's what is important to us. A bit background on our company. So we are a Canadian company. We've been incorporated in Ontario, Canada, back in 2017. We have invested to date so far nearly $3.4 million in drug development research of non-melanoma skin cancers, primarily CTCL. CTCL is the abbreviation of Cutaneous T-cell lymphoma type of cancer. And we are focused on developing treatments for two very specific types of CTCL. One is known as Sezary Syndrome and the other is MF. Both are what's known as orphan indications. That means they're rare diseases. Sezary also has a very high mortality rate. Someone that has a diagnosis for Sezary basically has received a death sentence. We've been doing our drug development for CTCL now for the past 4 years in Israel. And a joint venture with the Israeli Medical Laboratory at Volcani Institute, led by Professor Koltai, along with Rabin Medical Center, Israel's second largest medical center, where they have the largest research facility for skin cancer. And what's most important to understand that in our drug development process, we've discovered the molecules that when in synchronized formulation are effective in reducing 95% of the malignant T cells in these patients, in the CTCL, while the rest of the cells of the patient remain intact. Basically, so type of targeted chemotherapy, very effective in reducing the proliferation of cancer cells. Taking this data, we went to the UK and have been for the past year building a clinical trial for Sezary patients. As I said before, Sezary patients are basically dying patients. They have no chance for survival. They usually die within 2 years. And the UK's got a very special program for pharmaceutical companies that develop treatment for life-threatening indications that really have unmet needs. There's no cure for that type of illness. And we've been given the green light to proceed with an accelerated clinical program for Sezary patients. It's a 28-patient study. It's a very small study. It's a 2-year study. And once it's complete, because it's a rare indication, there's a very high reimbursement, and it's a 10-year exclusivity window for us in the UK. We're doing this in partnership with a very well-known company in the UK called Sana Healthcare. They've been doing the trial design for us, opening up the doors in the different medical clinical establishments to put the clinical trial together. And to do this program and to validate our drug and to establish it as a first line of care in the UK and later in the world, because the idea is to do it first in the UK and then to take it to other countries, we're raising £2.5 million to launch this UK clinical trial. A bit about the team. So the entrepreneurial force behind the company are myself and Dr. Owen Van Cauwenberg. Dr. Van Cauwenberg is the president of the company. He's basically the chief science officer. He's a veteran of the pharma industry. He was the head of research for Eli Lilly in Canada. And his background is pharmaceutical and biology. And as a biologist, the connection between a botanical drug and between cancer is an imperative. Olga is our CFO, and in our team also is Professor Koltai, the inventor, the innovator of our drug. She's the one who discovered and developed a method to develop our drug and develop the drug itself. Dr. Quizero, who's the chemist, he's our drug development person, and Guy Drori, my brother and business partner. We're not the one-trick pony. Our company has other drug development in the pipeline on the same platform and the same method. So we have the 2 CTCL drugs are the primary ones going into clinical study. But we also have other non-melanoma cancer drugs in development for actinic keratosis, squamous cell carcinoma, and basal cell carcinoma. These are very well-known common types of skin cancer. And our drug development program is also involved in that. But we're focusing all our resources and all our energy on validating our CTCL program. This is done in cooperation with, as I said, with Sana Life Science, the parent company for Sana Healthcare. ARO Volcani in the middle, that's the national laboratory in Israel for cannabis, medical cannabis research. Everything we've done is in partnership with them. Koltai, she's the head scientist for that laboratory. And Nexstar ChemiPharma is a well-known Israeli pharmaceutical chemistry company that put together our drug, did the formulation, did the extraction and the method to make the drug itself. A bit about why UK first. Well, because UK is accepted in the world as a high standard of clinical testing. The UK enables us to do a very fast and very small trial to establish efficacy for Sezary patients. So we don't have to spend $50 million on an FDA trial around the world. We're doing the UK first. To understand the UK, once we validate the drug, the compensation is for us on the Sezary patients alone, along with MF patients, between 30 to 40 million pounds per year. The clinical trial is about 2 to 2.5 years. And the data on that trial is being used to license the same drug in Europe, in Australia, in Canada, and other countries where that's possible. The market size just in Europe for the CTCL is nearly 1 billion pounds per year. We do the FDA only at the end. Many companies now in the pharmaceutical industry, especially small companies, are choosing to do the FDA only much later because the cost to do an FDA trial is extremely high. And here for 2-3 million pounds, we're able to do UK only and to get money and to sell our drug in the UK and to use that income to leverage it and to expand globally in a measured way, one step after another, instead of doing the whole globe all at once. Just a bit about the market. We're looking in the UK market alone. There are 260 Sezary patients and about 5,000 MF patients. So the total market for the UK is between 60 to 90 million pounds a year. And this is a pricing based on the national health system pricing for rare indications in the UK, which is roughly between 30,000 to 70,000 pounds per patient per year. With MF, it's a bit smaller, between 10 to 15,000 per year. So this is the projection for UK is between 60 to 90 million pounds per annum. But if we go to Europe, obviously the numbers grow exponentially. The price is pretty much the same. But then we're looking at a market between 700 million to 1 billion pounds per year. If we look at the projection of income over the next 5 years, you can see that we are projecting to by 2026 to be at around 100 million pounds per annum, and that's because we take things one step at a time. We're not trying to grab the world market all at once, because the cost to do that is very, very high. And I would love to answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Very clear pitching. I'd like to focus a little bit more on the business model. You are creating formula, I suppose, for drug makers. How exactly does it work?
So again, we have a patent formula, a drug, what's called a drug candidate to cure or to treat CTCL. We use Nexstar as a clinical manufacturing company to make the drug for the clinical trials. This is a rare disease. So this is not a drug that will be mass manufactured, even when we're taking it globally. So we can manufacture it in a very small manufacturing facility, even our own manufacturing facility. It's a very small disease, but the cost of care is very high. And that's why when you're looking at one drug, our patients per year at around, let's say 50,000 pounds per year, the amount of drug substance is in milligrams. It's very, very small amount, a very, very high price. So the manufacturing is not the big obstacle. That's not the challenge. We have the ability to make our own with Nexstar, our partner, enough for the clinical trial. And later on, it's just contract manufacturing with a partner that gets the formulation and the chemistry from Nexstar. They're the chemists. Our business models is direct sale to the national health systems. In cannabinoid or in oncology therapy, this is a very high price cancer drug. And it's the amount of drug being sold is very small. So we don't really need a global partner to sell this. It would be nice, and I believe that's what will happen in a year or two from now, once we establish validation and we show that we are curing these patients and the treatment is very effective, that a big pharmaceutical company would most likely come and want to partner with us in one way or another. But that will happen in 2 or 3 years. Right now, we have to fend for ourselves.
Okay. In terms of, we are talking about cannabinoid pharmaceuticals. Now, are you going to create and collaborating with sectors outside cannabis, or you are only focused on cannabis?
Well, so, I mean, the cannabinoid space and cannabinoid pharmaceutical is a very wide range of capabilities. I mean, the amount of science there is enormous, but we are looking at combination therapies, combining cannabinoids with other natural molecules, mostly doing research in collaboration with marine-based molecules that come from sea sponges, sea corals, sea algae, which has these living organisms have active substance and molecules that are very potent in the cancer space. And finding combinations between cannabinoids and other live biological molecules is something that we're looking at on the long term.
I mean, you are working on the effectiveness, but what about the side effects of?
So this is something very important when we're looking at this is the first study for CTCL with Sezary patients. They're dying. Now, we already have safety data on our cannabinoids because our cannabinoids are been used by other pharmaceutical companies. So we know we're not using THC. So the patients aren't getting hallucinogenic. We're using cannabinoids that have anti-inflammatory and cytotoxic effects. So again, we're testing on a very small group of 28 patients that are dying. So it wouldn't be terrible if we save their lives and they have some side effects. But this is going to be the purpose of the clinical trial, to see if there are any side effects and what they are. But we hope the only side effect will be saving their lives. Because, you know, maybe we'll save their lives and maybe their hair will fall out. Maybe their eyelashes will turn gray. Maybe they'll lose the ability to talk, but maybe we save their lives. But I seriously doubt, we don't expect very harsh side effects because cannabinoid therapy is already known. This is not a new thing, and the cannabinoids we're using are already being used by other companies. So there's a lot of toxicity data on the market already.
Yeah, my question was more if you move from what you're doing now, which is late stage of cancer, you said correctly, more than correctly, I mean, there is no side effect because people are dying. So we can try, whatever we're going to try can only do something better. But what happens if you move to different therapeutics, which is then not...
I'll explain. This is a very important question. In the trial for the Sezary patients, we're not looking just at saving or not saving the life. We're actually testing our drug on a variety of different endpoints. We're looking at, because this type of cancer, Sezary, has a skin irritation, and it has a very lethal part to its lymphatic system. So we're looking at the blood work, and we're looking at the skin. And we're seeing if the skin gets better or gets worse. And this is very important because if we show that our treatment is making the skin inflammation better, then we know not only is there a side effect, but there's actually a very positive effect on the skin inflammation. This could be used for other inflammatory indications as well, and other skin cancers as well. This is a very important point for us to see how we affect skin health and not just the cancer itself.
Which are your clients? Who are the companies working with you? Only in the pharmaceutical, cancer, or more broadly?
So our trial is being built with 3 large medical centers in the UK that are already treating these type of patients, CTCL patients. They're experts in CTCL treatment. And they are looking for anything that could help treat these patients, because these patients are, one, they're dying, and second, they're suffering. The Sezary patient has terrible skin cancer all over his body, and it's like his body's on fire and he's dying. So anything we can do to make their life better and maybe to improve their not only quality of life, but their longevity would be a success for us. We don't necessarily have to cure the person. We have to give him more time, and we have to make his time much better and reduce the cost of hospitalization. Those are the 3 criteria we're being measured for.
Do you have any data you can share?
Of course. Any
how...
NDA with an interested partner, and we'll share all our information. We have the full trial design, and everything I've mentioned is either patent information that we share. We have we're a peer review publication. All our science has been peer reviewed by the Oncology Society. So we're an acceptable methodology and method of treatment by the oncology world. We're accepted by mainstream medicine. We're not something odd or different. We are very novel. We're absolutely innovative, but we're accepted by mainstream medicine. And this information, an NDA, could be shared with an interested investor, no problem, of course.
You have been running 24 trials, yeah?
Our trial design in the UK is being targeted for 28 patients in the UK to validate its efficacy on the three criteria I mentioned before. Yes, it's because it's a rare disease. There are only 260 people in the UK that have Sezary.
And how is it going? I mean, are these patients?
We're raising funds to do the trial. Right now,
okay.
We're holding pattern, and we're raising capital in order to pursue this trial.
So let's talk about the fundraising. So you're raising how much?
We hope to raise £2.5 million to do the next 18 months of work.
18 months, and for
6 months of preparing the clinical trial and 12 months of the trial itself.
Okay. And where are you looking for funds? Predominantly.
We're talking to other pharmaceutical companies, funds, family offices, private investors. I've raised over the past 2 months £200,000 and hoping to raise much more over the course of the next few months. And once I have crossed the threshold of £500,000, I could start the trial preparation. And once I've reached $1.5 million, I could start the trial. And once I have 2.5, I know I can complete the first stage of the trial, the first year of the trial.
You aim to complete the trials in 18 months?
I'm not going to complete. I'm going to complete the first stage. I'm going to be, after 12 months of the trial, we will be able to show in data that this drug works and this drug is safe and there are no extreme side effects. But most importantly, after 12 months, we'll be able to show the national health system that we are meeting the criteria for success.
What about next? You do the round 18 months and after?
I'm sorry?
After these 18 months, where do you see?
After 18 months, if we're able to show that we're meeting the clinical targets, we have the cancer fund, the UK Cancer Fund, which provides with a lot of funding. And we have our cash rebate from the UK R&D cash credits, which is 25% of our expenditure. So we'll be getting back about about £600,000 we'll be getting back. And we'll have another £1 million from the Cancer Fund, which will enable us to complete the clinical study. Because the clinical study itself is just 18 months.
Completed? Yes.
It's 6 months preparation plus 18 months of the study itself.
So after 18 months, you have enough data to prove that
we have enough data after 9 months. Half the midway point, we have enough data to prove that we know that we're successful. Another 9 months to complete the safety assessment. And then it's another 6 months of licensing and get paid.
How do you scale up your business?
I'm sorry?
How do you scale up your business? How do you make it growing?
Okay, this is really the important part and that's why we're doing the UK first. For us to get that first order from the UK government is a multi-million contract. We get paid first year, let's say, for example, £20 million. The cost of the drug is not more than £100,000. I mean, the cost of the drug is nothing. It's what we're getting paid is getting paid for innovation for a very rare life-threatening drug indication. That money we're taking and doing the licensing in Germany, in France, in Italy, in Spain, in Canada, in Australia. That's our scale, is make it right in the UK, take that revenue and expand it into the other jurisdictions, either from our own revenue or through later on an IPO. But an IPO is already as an established pharmaceutical with a license and a revenue and a contract, not as a startup, because a pharmaceutical startup gets no money from the markets. But doing an IPO with already a proven product with a contract and sales is a different story altogether. So either we raise funds on the capital market, or we use our own funds and our own revenue stream to scale on a globally.
I mean,
Or we partner with a large pharmaceutical company, which is probably what's going to happen anyway.
I mean, in terms of what's going to be your exit strategy for the investors?
So that's really the easy part. We are focused on revenue and on creating value. That first year or two of revenue will determine the value of the company. If we take GW as an example, GW that recently got purchased by Jazz Pharma for 7.5 billion. They got purchased for, if I believe it was 18 times gross sales. So if I take our example, and let's say we're talking at the annual sales by year two of 50 million pounds, our comparable for a sale inside of an M&A would be somewhere around the neighborhood of between 700 million pounds to 1 billion pounds. That would be our comparable M&A enterprise value targets. And that's 2 years after the clinical trial. So the exit strategy for my investors is either taking the company public, but after the trial when we have an inflection point, or on an M&A with a large pharmaceutical company. Probably the more feasible, the more realistic one is an M&A.
So private acquisition.
Yeah, and if we're not going in, we don't see by year two of commercialization that we're entering negotiations for an M&A, we're going to take the company public. And once we have revenues and have a 10-year exclusive contract with the UK government, and we have clinical licensing in Germany, in other countries in Europe, it's a whole different ballgame. Our valuation point is much, much higher than what it will be today or tomorrow.
I mean, license, it's almost everything for you. How long does it take to be granted?
In the UK, so we have
Europe
now, which is 18 months. It's a 2-year process, 2 years to 32 months.
Okay, that's all Europe as well.
And so in parallel, if we look at Germany, it's 1 year after. Because it's not, we won't be starting in Germany once we end in Britain. We use the data from England to open a file in Germany, do a completion in Germany, a validation, and they get the license in Germany. Because don't forget, life-saving drugs get acceleration, very rapid acceleration in Europe.
I mean,
regulators like to accelerate life-saving drugs.
For what can be my understanding, if you get a license in UK, should be easier to get all.
Exactly.
No?
Exactly. Yes, it's almost automatic. I mean, we are experts that at the worst case, once we get the license in the UK, to do the license in Europe will take about 1 year.
Okay.
But the market size is 5-fold.
Yeah, absolutely. You can leverage what you are doing now in UK for Europe.
That's what I'm saying. Why would I IPO early? I would wait, have contracts for maybe 100 million, 150 million, and then IPO.
Absolutely. Makes a lot of sense. But I mean, what's your path to growth? UK, Europe, and after US?
Rest of the world, Japan, Korea, Latin America. Only at the very end, the US.
Why?
The FDA are tough. And you want to come to the FDA when you have the cards, and they're knocking at your door, not when you're at. When they need you more than you need them, that's the point you want them at.
Absolutely, that's the best position to play.
So I didn't invent this. This is something that a lot of entrepreneurs in the pharmaceutical industry are pursuing this path, because the FDA have become too much focused on safety and less focused on bringing real treatments to people that are dying. And sometimes in a way that's really moving away the treatment, then bringing it closer. So we're not going to take the risk of going to the FDA. And again, FDA is a very expensive process. It might cost us 30, 40 million to do the FDA. Why should I do that? For 4 or 5 million, 3 million, I'm doing it in the UK.
Absolutely agree. Why investors should give you the money?
I make them a shitload of money. For every pound they put in my hands, they'll be making much, much, much more in not a very long time. I've taken away the risk. I've already taken $3.5 million over the past 4 years and done my research and developed the drug in a very reputable medical center with the best professors in the industry. This is all very easily validated. So we've really taken away a lot of the risk. I'm not a science project. We already established that we reduce in biopsies proliferation by 95%. So even if we're not exact like in the lab at 95%, even if we reduce by 50% in the actual human, it will be a big success. So the risk is very lower. Someone else took the risk with the 3.5 million. So the investor comes in with lower risk, but with an enormous blue sky ahead of him.
Thank you, Avi. Thank you very much
Thank you,
for
Mark.
coming to this talk, and hope we can talk later on for
Yes, definitely.
see your great achievement. Thank you so much.
Right.
Thank you.